if today you're stressed out, burnt out, really feeling overwhelmed, it could be because you're basing your value on what you do, not who you are. And the question is what if your performance isn't what makes you valuable? Great question. This is Dennis and Lisa McIntee, and we're here on the Drama Free Living podcast. Lisa, we want to cover this idea of maybe the myth of performance, that my self-worth is really based on what I do.
Right.
And I think this is a great topic for a lot of people because I've discovered, for me, it's what creates this stress, overwhelm, is when I really feel like I have to perform and I have to meet certain standards. And the funny thing is that many times the standards are self-created.
And we're coming into the holidays and you're going to be with family and friends, and it's all going to be about your performance over the last year, how you've done, what's been going on, how do you rank up to your sibling or to your cousin. And, that's not really how we measure our impact on the world. How we measure our impact on the world is really, are we being true to who we are and what gives us our worth, not what gives us worth compared to, my Uncle Chester.
Well, and Lisa, where my brain went was I thought about the Christmas letter. Right? Do you remember did your parents ever send out, mine never did, but I hear about this.
Yeah.
Right? The parents would send out the Christmas letter and explain what all the kids are doing throughout the year. This is like the update. This is what's happening in our lives. And sometimes you kind of feel like, I'm comparing myself to a sibling, or, they're doing this, and, I'm doing this.
Right.
And I think if we're not careful, it's like even that sibling rivalry is a big thing.
Yeah. And I was in an office the other day, and I picked up a magazine, and it was a local community magazine, and it was like, meet the whatever family. And it was the mom sitting on the chair with the dog on her lap, and then the 10-year-old boy with his hand on her chair with a big smile, and the 8-year-old girl with her little dress and her hand on the other chair, and then the dad in the other chair. And I thought, I wonder what all broke loose before we were taking that picture. And I wonder all of the stress and craziness, they look like the picture perfect American family. And I'm thinking, what really was happening behind the camera?
Well, we know it's not completely true, right? It's because real life happens.
So how can I compare myself to that? Because that's not even real.
Yeah. And I think really we live in a comparison culture.
Yeah.
Right. It's all about, the differences, and I'm always, especially social media, probably really drives a lot of this. And I think the problem with social media is that I am comparing my insides with your outsides. Mm-hmm. Right? I know what's going on. I know sometimes what a mess emotionally sometimes I am, and I'm confused and I'm irritable and restless, and I'm not content with what I have, like all of these things, right? And then, I look out on the Insta or on the Facebook, right? And I see these picture perfect ideals. And I think we got to really be careful of that comparison culture.
They are doing all kinds of studies about what our technology is doing to us as a culture, and more specifically to young adults and teens and kids, and the huge rates of depression, the higher levels of suicide, the higher levels of eating disorders, different things like this that are going on, and the separation from interacting with real world and what it's actually doing to us, to our bodies, to our brains, to our emotions, and it's kind of sad.
It really is, Lisa. And I think what this myth of I perform, is really hurting us even as leaders and our teams. And it's this. So Lisa, I was in a meeting last night, and I haven't told you this yet, but one of the people in the meeting, he made this statement, and it really hit me that this is something I have to work on, is he said, don't be so goal-oriented, be more process-oriented.
Okay.
Right? And many times I think I set the goal, but I don't talk about the process. And a little bit that goal is like what I'm going to get, but the process is who do I become? Because I think it's much more important who I am than what I do. But that is really flipped around in our culture where we judge other people on what they do, not who they're becoming.
Well, because we're going to go into Thanksgiving and it's going to be like, so what's been going on? And you just recite all your accolades, or you recite all your how you're all crazy and stressed. It's very rarely like, yeah, I've really been learning this and I've been trying to grow in this way, and this has kind of been a struggle, and it's kind of surfacey.
Yeah. And so I think this idea of comparison, I think because sometimes it kind of leads into the second thought that I had, is that I don't even know who I am. I'm so busy wearing a mask that, gosh, I don't even know who I was created to be. And I think real growth is you're maturing into the person you were destined to always be. And the reality is that there's this picture in the inside of you. And almost, Michelangelo, I was reading this story about Michelangelo, and he talked about when he was doing this statue or whatever of David, and, he was just chiseling away and creating the statue. He was actually like, David was already inside of this piece of marble, and he was chipping away at the things that weren't supposed to be there.
Right. And getting away all the pieces that weren't David.
Yeah. Right. And it's almost like think about your life. Right? You're in this marble, and what do you need to chip away? Right? What are some things that you need to chip away so that you can become really who you were created to be and really be that person? But I think, gosh, if I am chasing an image, I think that's what happens, is that I have this image of what I would like it to be, right? But it might not even fit me. It might not even be sort of the unique destiny that I was created for. And I think many times in this drive to success and this drive to get things is that we kind of lose who we are.
I really like what you just said about it just doesn't really fit me.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of the analogy when you borrowed my gloves.
Oh, yeah.
Do you want to tell that? Because it's a really good picture of what it feels like to try to be someone else or wear a cloak of personality that's not really you.
Yeah, this is probably 30 years ago or so. In another lifetime, Lisa and I lived in Poland. And I remember coming back to the States. You were still in Poland with the kids. And I took a long weekend and went back to the States and came back. And
very long weekend.
A very long weekend, but it's still, a long weekend. And I bought you some really nice leather gloves because in Poland, it gets cold. And so I brought you and I gave you these gloves. And it was probably a week later or so I'd given you the gloves. And I had to go out. And I couldn't find my gloves. Well, I did what most great husbands do, is I found your gloves and borrowed your gloves. And I remember how upset you were after I wore the gloves. I kind of stretched them out, right?
They weren't so nice
anymore. But I thought during that day, as I tried to squeeze my hand inside of this glove, my hand was uncomfortable. It hurt, but gosh, it was warm. And I thought, how many times do we try to do that with our own lives? We try to squeeze ourselves into a mold
that feels comfortable.
That feels
warm.
Yeah, and you might have comfort, but are you becoming that person that you are uniquely designed to be?
Yeah, because it didn't feel good. It felt warm, but it didn't feel good.
Yeah, so I think that's a really paying attention to your emotions. And that's one thing, Lisa, that we've really been working on. It's why we have courses like Emotionally Intelligent, because your emotions have wisdom. And so how can you become more and more aware of your emotions and the story that they're telling you, and then learning from that story? And I think a lot of times people don't learn from their story because they're so disconnected and so dysregulated on the inside. They can't even learn from these things. So, and I think comparison culture really is a detriment to us. It causes us to wear this mask, and then we're disconnected on the inside, and then we don't even know who we are. And so we don't want that for you. So, performance, your value based on your performance, it's a total myth. Another thing I thought about, Lisa, is this idea of success, this picture of success. And I think, nobody can tell you what success means to you.
Right.
And if we're not careful, it's like we end up climbing the ladder to success and we get to the top, and then so many people, they go, it's against the wrong building. I actually put the success ladder on a wrong building, and now that I've reached it, I don't even like it.
It's not even what I want.
It's not even what I want. And Lisa, I've even seen this in my own life, just my own experiences, that there's certain things that I thought I wanted. And then when I got them, I thought, wow, it's not everything I thought it was going to be. And so I think really redefining success and really asking yourself, what does success look like for you? I mean, one idea of success that I have is that the people that know me the best still love and care for me, right? The people that know all of my warts and all of my baggage and all of the ugliness that some of my behavior has created throughout the years, they still love me. They still accept me.
And they love you because you're you and because of the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah. And there's nothing, I guess, I don't know, there's nothing that feels as good as that. Is just being comfortable in your own skin and being comfortable with the people around you. Is that you don't have to wear a mask. And Lisa, the older I get, and we're in our 50s now, I have just realized I don't want to wear masks.
Yeah.
I want the masks to come off because it's no fun. And we've even seen leaders, right? Leaders say, oh, it's lonely at the top. We were just talking to a group of leaders in New Mexico, a bunch of chief nursing officers and executives in healthcare. And some of the comments were is that it just kind of becomes lonely at the top. And I thought, well, it is if you created it that way, right? If you created that scenario, absolutely. And I think sometimes we accept some of these ideas as truths and they're not really totally true. Because it doesn't have to be. Is it lonely at the top? Do you have to make some hard decisions? There is a truth to that, right? That only you can make certain decisions. But if you don't have a tribe that you're running with, I think that's one thing that I love about our roundtable is that people run with a tribe. Mm-hmm. And so we've created these tribes where people get to run together where maybe you can't share it with your team, but you don't have to walk alone. You don't have to walk this journey alone. And
Life is really lonely when you're having to walk, when you think you're walking it alone, or when you do have to walk it alone.
Well, and it's this performance myth creates the loneliness, right? I believe, I can't share with you who I really am because I got to put this mask on and I have to wear this sort of cloak that doesn't even fit me. I have to wear these gloves that don't fit me because I have to create this image. And gosh, it really is lonely. And we don't want that for you.
Because I'm competing against you. So why would I share with you who I really am?
Well, and then you think about you cannot collaborate with the person you compete against. Yeah. It doesn't work. But how many times do we expect in our organizations, okay, we want you to collaborate, want you to work as a team. Well, holy cow, if I don't deal with that competition, but most leaders don't go after that competition mindset. We almost kind of create the competition. It's fascinating. We create the competition mindset, and then we're upset that people don't collaborate together.
We create competition and expect collaboration, and the two don't. It's oil and water. They do not mix.
Right, but yet we do these things to ourselves. And really what kind of drives this competition is the performance myth, is that my value is based on what I do, and you have inherent self-worth. And there is nothing that feels better than working with people that feel secure.
Yeah.
Right? There's nothing that feels better working with a leader that is just secure in themselves and can laugh at themselves. Right? That can own their mistakes.
When a leader is secure in themselves, other people just feel comfortable around them.
Yeah. Well,
and they feel comfortable making mistakes. The leader can laugh at themselves, and so the team can laugh at themselves. Yes, it's a mistake. Did it cost a lot of money? Yeah, maybe, but we can move on.
Well, and I think it really kind of drives down to the third idea that I had with this is really learning to be self-compassionate, practicing self-compassion.
This is what helps break this whole people-pleasing myth.
Yeah, because it's like, I'm treating myself with kindness, myself with kindness, right? Because when I'm hard on myself, it's typically because I have an image that is even like, it's just kind of a fantasy, right? When you think about the performance myth, it's a fantasy. You've created this image and this mold that you believe you're supposed to live up to that a little bit is impossible to live up to, right? You're going to make mistakes. I'm going to make mistakes. You're not going to make mistakes, but you've heard of people making mistakes, right, Lisa?
Yeah.
We're just teasing. Yeah. But really learning to practicing self-compassion. And Lisa, one thing that I've been working on, and this is hot off the press, so I have not been doing this a long time, right? But rolling in my brain this idea of course. Right. When I see mistakes or I do things that I'm not happy about, I go, well, of course I did that. I'm just human. Right. Well, of course I feel that way. I'm just human. Right. Well, of course. And because if I don't practice compassion with myself, I'll never learn. And here's the thing. If I don't practice compassion with myself, how can I ever give you compassion?
Yeah.
I can't. Right? And many times people are hard on other people really because they're hard on themselves. And how tough is that for them?
And then when people are hard on themselves, it doesn't matter what someone else says in encouragement or in kudos, they're going to twist it and they're going to turn it and figure out some sort of a negative connotation for it. Because how could they be that great? Because they don't think they are.
Because that comes from the inside, not the outside.
Yeah.
This is an inside job. Mm-hmm. Now, here's what's fascinating, Lisa, is that when I don't know how this works, but it just works. When I break the performance myth, I perform better.
Yeah. Well, you're happier, you're less stressed, you're less burnt out. So, of course, you perform better.
Well,
because you're more settled, you're more confident, you have more energy. Do you realize the amount of energy that it takes to be burnt out and stressed and unhappy? It takes so much energy.
Would you imagine the energy that it takes to wear a mask?
Yeah.
Right? It takes a lot of energy. And I just think that we should spend that energy other places. And I think that's why you perform better, because you're using less energy to wear a mask or try to create an image. And so you're not creating this image. So now you have all of this leftover energy to really perform. And it really hit me, Lisa. It's like, so when I break the performance myth, I actually perform better. But if I keep that lie rolling around on the inside of me, I actually don't perform as well. So it's fascinating. So I've really realized that practicing self-compassion is huge. Mm-hmm. And then, really this idea of celebrating character, not accomplishments.
Right. Because if you celebrate character rather than accomplishments, then you're breaking that feeling of I've got to measure up.
Yeah. And this idea of who I become is more important than what I do. And a lot of times we set goals and we're coming up onto the new year where everybody's setting goals. And so we just want to maybe just challenge you a little bit is stop focusing so much on goal-oriented goals. I don't know if that even makes sense. But work on process-oriented goals. Like, who do you need to become? Because the reality is that what you do flows out of who you are. And the truth is that you're not doing more because you're not that person. So at least I sat with a group in Pennsylvania this week, and I said, well, here's the reality, right? You're at a certain size in your organization, in your business, because truly that's all you can do. And that's what I told the executive team. I said, the reality is that's all you can do. Now, I know we have these goals to drive revenue to another place and to do more and to have, but the first question is who do you need to become? So to get to that number revenue-wise, I asked them, what does this team need to become? And who do you need to become as leaders? Who do you need to become as the VP of sales and the VP of administration and as the chief operating officer? Who do you need? Who do you need to become to be able to run an organization of X, this next size? Because I think a lot of times, and Lisa, we've done this, right? Where we've set in certain goals, maybe they could be revenue goals or profitability goals, but we never stepped back and said, okay, who do we have to become? And what was sad is that we ended up spending a lot of our energy and we never got the goal anyways.
Yeah.
Because we weren't those kind of people yet.
And that's how we ended up creating Leadership 101.
Yeah.
Because we realized we need to be different people. We need to become better leaders. We need to be more consistent or better delegators, better communicators. And that's kind of what Leadership 101 is all about.
And I think what I love about Leadership 101 is just the transformation that's happened. It's 6 tools. It's 6 transformational tools that people learn so that they can transform their lives. They can transform their leadership. And then what's amazing when they become these bigger people, they automatically do bigger things.
But it's not just these 6 transformational tools. We do it live, online with a human. So there's interaction. So there's like, hey, wait a minute, I'm not understanding this. I thought it was this. And we go through and we walk and just kind of help walk through life together and learn these tools and processes together to be better, to transform and to transform our character. And
Well, listen, I think sort of the secret sauce to Leadership 101 a little bit is that you don't transform alone.
Yeah.
And so there's this coaching aspect that you do it in a community.
Yeah.
And we don't open it up to thousands of people, right? It's a small group coaching experience where you learn from each other, develop relationships, because I have been changed because of my relationships. I've been transformed from the people that are in my life. It's not necessarily a knowledge, right? I learn knowledge, which is sort of the first step, but I never take it to like that next level where I take that knowledge and I apply it within inside of a relationship or a group and then get this feedback on it. Because we've even seen this, Lisa, I don't know if I should even say this, but yeah, people have read her books and they've tried to apply it, but they had to nuance it. And it wasn't until they were, say, in Leadership 101 or in a live coaching session or in a roundtable where they said, hey, I understand that principle, but I tried it and it didn't work. And they were able to get feedback. Yeah, because you have to nuance it this way. Mm-hmm. And that was the transformational aspect. And I think the fallacy sometimes is that we believe knowledge transforms us.
Yeah.
And you got to have knowledge as a basis. But think about how many books have we read that we never applied?
Yeah.
And we underline it, we highlight it, and maybe we'll text a key phrase to a friend, and then we'll put it on the bookshelf and go get the next book, and then go get the next book, and then go get the next book, right? Or I've seen that with Audible. I'm a great big Audible fan, but how many times do I just blow through all these books? And they're helpful, right? I'm not against those things, but I just want us to take it to the next level and think about transformation.
Well, that's why things like book clubs have become so popular, because it's taking that knowledge and that information and then adding the human element to it, the group feedback element to it, to be able to apply and learn how other people have and their perspective on it. And that's essentially what we do with Leadership 101 is we take this really good information and then we learn from each other on how we can drive it down into our lives and how we can apply it in my specific situation. Because, your analogy of whatever Fortune 500 company isn't going to really help me in my little 5-person company.
Right.
They're similar but different.
Yeah, and sometimes we don't need people 100 steps ahead of us. I just need somebody at the next level, right? Like 2 steps ahead of me where you can remember what it was like and you can bring me along. Lisa, just thinking about that idea of book club. I'm doing a book club with my sister. Mm-hmm. Very helpful, right? On Caroline Leaf's new book, Help in a Hurry. Yeah. Right? Very helpful. I don't know if you know this. I haven't told you this yet, but we have a couple roundtable members that are going through a book study themselves on a book called Never Boss. Oh. I got a text saying, hey, we're doing this book study together, and they call each other once a week and talk about the chapter.
That's very cool.
Right? It is, and it is a great way to integrate the knowledge because you got to have a way to integrate it. So I think with this whole idea of really driving it back to this performance myth is that think about the process. Like who you become is more important than what you do. And I think we have to celebrate this, but I think a lot of times we don't because we don't necessarily give awards. Lisa, I was talking to a roundtable client and he was talking about, he's got 3 young kids and it's so important to him to really become a great dad. And I said, part of the challenge that we have as men, maybe females don't have it as much, I can just speak from my experience, is that, there is no big award that says, hey, you get a $50,000 a year raise because you're the best dad here, right? So, hey, here's an extra $50 an hour, $5 an hour, $1 an hour, or here's a bonus, right? There's no sometimes outward sort of rewards. And I think as far as my mindset, I don't know how it works for other people, but sometimes that can be really hard, especially when we're super reward driven. And I think if you deal with the performance myth, you might be reward driven. And I think you just need to step back and go, okay, how can I be process driven? And maybe changing the reward, right? It kind of goes back to what does success mean to you? And then I think maybe this last thing that I'm kind of thinking about with the performance myth is really anchoring myself in purpose. Yeah. Why am I created? Like focus on the mission and almost focus on the contribution. I think a lot of times, if we're not careful, when we're living in this performance myth, we're doing it to get something, right? We're doing this and we're going to get this. But what if it wasn't about that? What if it really was about the contribution? What if you really focused on the contribution and just let the rewards play themselves out?
Mm.
Right? I'm not saying like
that can be really that could create some fear because
oh, absolutely.
you still have to make your house
Yeah.
payment and you still have to pay your insurances.
Yeah, I'm not saying don't take the raise, right? I'm not saying don't take the bonus, right? I'm not saying don't get a better
Please
paying
take the
job.
bonus.
Yeah, take the bonus. We want you to take the bonus, right? I'm not saying that, but what if the focus was more on contribution? And what if you woke up every day and said, hey, who can I contribute to today? How can I be useful today? And I think, Lisa, over the last 6 months, that has really been a core question that I have when I step into a meeting is I always ask myself, okay, how can I be useful today? Right? When we stepped in to do the podcast, I thought, okay, how could I create a bigger contribution? Like, how can I be more useful to you as a podcast partner and as a host? And we've got our sound technician, our sound engineer, right?
How can we be more useful to Chris?
Right. How can we be more useful to Chris? We kind of had that conversation, right? It's how can we be more useful to, 98 Central where we're at inside of their studios today? And every relationship, how can I be more useful? How can I contribute bigger and better? Because I guarantee you rewards will always follow contribution. But if you focus on the reward, it becomes about what you can get. And here's really the problem with this, Lisa. People feel it. Mm-hmm. Like you can mask it, right? But people know it. You just feel it, right? You just kind of feel, you use the word yuck.
Yeah.
Right? Or icky.
Icky,
right? You say, oh, that just felt kind of icky, right? You're with somebody and you're like, that just felt kind of icky.
It's kind of like when you're walking down the street and you step on something and you lift your foot and it's like, ugh, and it's gum. It's like that, oh, I just stepped in something. It just, you can't actually feel it on your skin, but you feel that sense. And it's just kind of ick.
Yeah. Ugh. Yeah. And so, so Lisa, for you, like this has been a great conversation, right? And I think, gosh, think about like the freedom when you realize like your value never drops, even when life does, right? Even when life has dips, your value never drops, right? And it's almost like, what if like your self-worth was not up for debate?
Yeah.
What if it wasn't dependent on outside circumstances? How many times do we do that, right? I've seen this, maybe the market drops, right? Maybe our sales drop. Maybe we have a tough time in our business or an organization and then we feel bad about ourselves.
Yeah.
This has got to stop, right? And then it becomes this wicked cycle because this outside circumstance happens and I feel bad about myself. And then the fact that I feel bad about myself means I don't perform well. And then the circumstances don't get even worse. And it is this crazy cycle that happens. And I think, hey, let's just stop the cycle. Right? Really, your worth being based on your performance is a myth. It's a total myth. But you get a choice. You get a choice whether you're going to believe that lie or not believe that lie, right? Whatever, if it's true to you, it's true. And our hope is that, today this truth sets you free a little bit, that you can walk in a new sense of freedom and a new sense of faith, right? Because you talked about, this, you really are confronted with fear. When I think about comparison culture, fear-based.
Yeah.
Right? When I think about celebrating process, not celebrating goals, fear-based, right? Is most of my challenges with this really become some kind of innate fear that I have to confront. And what I've realized is that every time I step up another level in my development, I always have to confront a new fear.
Absolutely. And I love that we're talking about this because coming up for Black Friday, we're going to be offering Resilient Leader Toolbox.
Resilient Leader Toolbox.
And
we want you to get it.
It's essentially what we're talking about is how you can be resilient, how you can break through that performance lie. And I think we're doing it like 65% off or something,
so listen,
like $9 for these 3 different mini courses. So yeah.
Yeah. Lisa,
so that's Black Friday.
I mean, honestly, when Mary Grace and Natalie, 2 of our team members, they really kind of help us with the podcast. They said we should do this. I just said, you're crazy. You're crazy. What do you mean $9? But they're kind of aggressive. And so I said, hey, I'll play that game. We're going to go with that game. So listen, get the toolbox. Okay. It deals with how do you deal with procrastination, right? The emotional regulator is in that because you're coming into the holidays. how many emotions go crazy, right? It can be a very emotional, stressful time at these different times of the year. And so we want to help you with it. So we want you to be more resilient and really step into who you were created to be.
Yeah, absolutely. I love this whole concept, this performance lie. It's like, okay, how do we combat it? Well, we challenge comparison culture. We really redefine our success. Like, what does success look like to us? Practice self-compassion, because we're going to screw up, we're going to mess it up, and that's what makes us applicable to other people around us.
Yeah.
We celebrate our effort and our character, not all of our accolades. And then we really anchor ourselves in our purpose and our meaning. Because at the end of the day, you can look back and be like, okay, how did I do today? Did I do what I want to be in 5 years or 10 years? Did I impact those people that mean the most to me?
Yeah. I think for me, maybe as we're talking about it, I have to continue to dive into self-compassion. Because I still have a little bit this performance-based culture, this performance-based mindset. And, truth of it is I came by it honestly, right? I was trained this way, and it's okay. And I really appreciate all that training because it causes us to be able to accomplish some things. But, I also have to, on the flip side, really practice self-compassion and really look at, who I'm becoming more important than what I'm doing. So.
Yeah. And, if you have enjoyed this content, please feel free to send it on, to share it with someone that you think this could really impact, because we're in this together just to make life better, to create better culture. And, subscribe so you can get it in your inbox. And because we've got some other lies that we're going to talk about coming up.
Yeah.
And we're going to be talking about window of tolerance coming up, and how you can just kind of live without freaking out. So
it's going to be fun. All right. So listen, I think our work is done. We'll see you next time on the Drama Free Living Podcast.